I think it would be great if we just took a couple of minutes to do a grounding. So I want to encourage you before we get started, so we can get settled in to this magical new moon in Libra that is upon us in the next couple of days on October 6th, 2021. And it's at 4:05 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, 12:05 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. I think that's 10:05 p.m. for our friends in Sydney and the East Coast of Australia. This is the Juicy Astrology for the New Moon in Libra webinar. I'm so excited to be bringing this to you today. Doing it for free on Mercury retrograde because who knows what could happen. I'm doing it without a technical assistant. And I think for the next one, I will be bringing someone in. So let's just take a moment to settle into your seat or wherever you happen to be right now. If you're listening to this while taking a walk, if it's a beautiful autumn day, wherever you are. And take a moment. You can close your eyes or leave them open. Really tap into your breath to fill up your lungs all the way down to your belly, and let it all go when you exhale. Feeling into the rhythm of our breath, the ebb and flow, the inhale and the exhale, so similar to that lunar rhythm we have of the ebb and flow, the flow and the ebb. Maybe you want to take an inhale and sigh it all out. Okay, I'm feeling good. All right, are you ready? I don't have anyone manning the chat or the Q&A, so I will be stopping every few slides just to make sure that we're all good. Please do make sure to put any questions you have in the Q&A or in the chat, and we'll answer them as we go. So the order of festivities this afternoon, a quick introduction who I am and why is this important to me. And we're going to talk a little bit about working with lunar rhythms. Just ask any midwife how important the lunar rhythm is. We're going to talk about the energy of a new moon and the moons in general, Libra, a little bit on its history and meaning. Then we're going to go into the juicy astrology for this new moon in Libra on October 6, 2021. And then we're going to talk about the new moon in Libra as it pertains to the houses and how to set an intention and what that's like. And then at the very end, we'll do Q&A. My hope is that this lasts about an hour, but no guarantees. If you guys are really talkative and full of questions, I want to make sure that I'm very much in service to you and that you get all of your questions answered. So who am I? Well, Divinely Jennifer is my business name. And that came into me last fall when I wasn't quite sure what the next path on my journey was, like so many of you who felt like you were on pause and not quite sure where you were going, how were you going to be of service. And I had that name, and then it all beautifully fell into place. I'm a single mom to 2 daughters and 1 son. They're 17, 19, and 21. We live in the Sierra foothills of Northern California, except my oldest, who goes to school in Worcester, Massachusetts. I'm a traditional naturopath and a nurse by training. So my focus when I was in practice and when I worked for the VA was to really focus on empowering people to take charge of their health naturally. I have all sorts of letters after my name, but really, the most important part to me is empowering people. And I've been a student of astrology for over 10 years. And it was really through a health crisis that I had when I was in my 20s that got me into nutrition, energy work, herbology, natural medicine. And then being a parent really taught me that what we hear about, what we're told in the world of healthcare, is not necessarily in our highest interest, in our best interest. And honestly, so many of the big systems out there today are not. And I love astrology because it really, it's the key. Our divine natal blueprint is really the key to our path in this life, how we can be of service, our gifts. And it really allows me to reflect that light back to people, that everyone is so beautiful when you look at their natal chart. I just see magic in all of us. So I'm really passionate about sovereignty, living our purpose, and natural health. And Divinely Jennifer is how I bring it all together. Some photos so you can see I'm a real live human being. This is me with my family, my kiddos. We were in Kauai this past summer and we're able to do some portraits together. Me with my whole mate, as we call each other. And then if I'm not working or I'm not at home, you will find me on the trails of the American River with our dog, Juna, who's a very willing companion on those trails, unless we're walking uphill on a really hot day. So why is it important to work with the lunar rhythms? Why are we talking about this? Well, we are naturally moon creatures. We naturally, our human body is about 60% water, up to 90% of our body weight is water, kind of depending on the time of the month for women who are menstruating. And, the lunar cycle has a natural ebb and flow. So we feel the moon as humans, just the way the oceans and the rivers and the lakes feel the tides. We have our own tides. And so the new moon, the first quarter moon, the full moon, the third moon, those are all considered active phases of the moon. So they're flow and yang and masculine energy. And then the crescent, gibbous, disseminating, and balsamic moons, which are between all of those different phases, are considered resting, passive, or receiving. And that's kind of the ebb phase, or the yin and the feminine. And then we also, whatever sign the moon is in, we feel that different energy. So we feel the energy of the moon changing every few days, no matter if it's in the waxing or waning stage. So the waxing moon is between the new moon and the full moon, and it's a building of energy. It's an initiation. And then the full moon is the culmination of energy and feelings. And like I said, just ask any midwife. That's a picture of my son, Luke, when he was about a year old. He was the 6th baby born at the hands of my midwife in 24 hours on the full moon. So that full moon energy, we feel it culminate, we feel emotions, and things just go whoosh. They want to come into the world. And then the waning moon is after the full moon until the next new moon, and it's decreasing energy and finishing up. And so we often call the last couple of days before the new moon, it's the dark of the moon. And this is really a time where we shouldn't be doing a whole lot, initiating anything. It's very much resting and finishing up energy. That's one of the reasons I wanted to do this webinar today versus doing it tomorrow or Tuesday, was because it's the dark of the moon phase, and none of us should be working too hard if we can avoid it. Now, Libra is about relationships and balance. And the first texts on Libra come from Babylonia about 3,000 years ago, and they called it the balance of heaven, which I think is really kind of neat. The Romans liked Libra for the balance of day and night. And in fact, I just found out when I was researching for this webinar that the autumnal equinox was in Libra until 729. And then it moved into that Virgo section, that Virgo cusp. And it's going to shift to Leo in 2439 as the stars and the constellations progress around the sun. Now, Libra is a cardinal sign. That means it's the first sign that begins a season. And so here it's the advent of autumn in the northern hemisphere and spring in the southern hemisphere. Libra is initiating visionary energy, especially as it pertains to our one-on-one relationships. It focuses a lot on what could be or on potential, which frankly gets a lot of us in trouble in our relationships because we're focusing on what could be instead of the now. And Libra is very much about creating beauty for others. In Libra, we would much rather spend time with a loved one out enjoying nature than being out there by ourselves. Now, balance does not mean equality in the sense of Libra, because we know the healthiest relationships focus on balance of strengths and gifts. It's not like, all right, well, I washed 8 dishes, 5 cups, and 7 forks, and that took me 10 minutes. So now you have to do the same thing. That's not at all what balance means. It's really that balance of yin and yang, masculine and feminine, material and ethereal, physical and emotion, the balance of you and me. Libra is also about the importance of frequency. And I'm going to talk more about this, harmony, peace, and nature. So this is what Libra looks like in the sky. And you can see here, these are the scales. It's tipped sideways. I probably could have tilted the picture this way, but that's what it looks like in the heavens. And the constellation of Libra actually has a couple of little planets in it too that are not part of our solar system because they don't revolve around the sun. They revolve around some of these bigger stars in the constellation. All right, so now we're getting to the part why you're all here, and that is the juicy astrology for the new moon in Libra on October 6th. We're going to talk about the energy of this new moon in Libra, aspects, transits, and patterns involving the new moon. We're going to talk about aspects, transits, and patterns with other planets. So I'm going to get technical first, and then I'm going to get to what it all means. So don't worry. Everything I say that is technical, I really want to try to explain how it pertains for those of you who might be beginners to astrology. We're going to talk about how to support our health and well-being during the chaos. Spoiler alert, there is going to be a lot of chaos in the 3D world during this new moon, but don't panic because we've got the answers here. And then we're going to talk about the new moon by house. And really what that means is how to set an intention for this new moon to really use the potent energies that we have today with that, or on Wednesday with that new moon, and then a Q&A. So the new moon in Libra is when the moon conjuncts the sun. They meet up in the sky at 13 degrees, 24 minutes of Libra. And that's the little symbol for Libra here. You'll see that a lot in this webinar. Happens at 4:05 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, 7:05 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 12:05 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, and 10:05 p.m. for our friends on Australian Eastern Standard Time. Now, with this new moon in Libra, we are being asked to make decisions, especially about relationships. Now, Libra really dislikes making decisions because it usually leaves someone lacking or unhappy or taking something personally. And Libra wants everyone to be happy, wants everything to be peaceful and harmonious. But right now, we're going to really be feeling this energy to make a decision. And that's partly because Mars is conjunct this new moon. It's that courage and that action, and we got to do this. It's also what's going to contribute to some of that anger or war energy we might be feeling later on in the cycle that I'll talk about. And it's asking us, who are we in relation to others? We got to make big decisions for career, big decisions for how we communicate and relate with all the vitriol and polarity out in the world right now. How are you personally communicating with others? And it's deciding to choose love over fear. We're being asked to set boundaries around love and communication. So how we communicate our love, if we want to communicate love, if we don't want to communicate love, should we communicate anything at all? We're being asked to make decisions around sovereignty versus authority, and also sovereignty versus conformity. We're preparing for the fall with this new moon. And I say fall because it's not just about autumn. For those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, this pertains to all of us everywhere. It's the beginning of the fall for all of the systems that do not support our highest purpose: healthcare, education, financial systems, food systems, all of those different systems that have been created that are supposed to be for our highest good, but yeah, guess what? They're not really working for us, are they? This is about trusting Mother Earth to help us create the new Earth. We got to trust that she knows what she's doing, no matter how crazy things might seem in the earthly world. It's about rebooting communications. Turn off the machines and the relationships that distract you that from love or that lower your vibration, right? So earlier today, my printer wasn't working. I had to restart my printer, and then my computer wasn't working right. So I had to restart my computer, and then my just technologically things, right? We're always told to reboot the machine. And this is about rebooting communications, take a break. My son and I got into it this morning. So we kind of had to take a little communication break, and we're going to come back together later to talk about love and how I, as a mama, have to set boundaries. And it's also about choosing communication and frequencies that raise your vibration. If you think about some of the music that's out there today or that's been out in the world, it's not there to raise our vibration. A lot of it, especially when it has to do with love and relationships, is about subjecting ourselves or being submissive in some way to somebody else. And, does that really raise your vibe? I don't feel like it raises mine. So I'm really we're being asked to find music and sounds like nature and certain musicians, bowls, crystal bowls, Tibetan bowls, anything that raises our vibration. So if I could sum up this new moon in one sentence, it's that this new moon is all about having the courage and love to set boundaries in our relationships in innovative ways so that we can create new structures and new foundations in the soul tribe community we wish to build. So as you're setting your intention, which you can do on Wednesday, anytime that works for you, or Wednesday or Thursday, just know that you can keep this message in mind, because this is really the take-home message of this Libra new moon in one sentence. All right, so this may look like Greek to a lot of you, and that is totally okay. We are going to get into the nitty-gritty. I will be sharing my screen with you and kind of drawing it out and sharing with you what this means. So the new moon transits. So the new moon, the sun and the moon together are conjunct the ascendant of the chart, which I've set in Washington, D.C., as the capital of the U.S. And as really the capital of so much that is happening out in the world right now. The ascendant is at 11 degrees, 58 minutes of Libra, and it's very tightly conjunct Mars. That's the symbol for Mars at 13 degrees, 58 minutes of Libra. The new moon is loosely conjunct retrograde Mercury. That's the symbol for Mercury. They're at 20 degrees, or Mercury's at 20 degrees, 17 minutes of Libra. And so what I put this in red here, and yes, I will be sharing the slides with you all as registrants of this webinar, so don't worry. You'll have this info. I put it in red because in the charts that I use, they anytime a planet or an asteroid is retrograde, it shows up red on the chart. So that's what that means. The new moon is also in a grand trine with retrograde Saturn, who's at 6 degrees, 53 minutes of Aquarius, and Ceres, who's at 12 degrees, 7 minutes of Gemini. The new moon is opposite retrograde Chiron, who's in Aries. This is interesting. The new moon is in a yod, or a finger of God, with Uranus, who's also retrograde, at 13 degrees, 55 minutes of Taurus, who's sextile retrograde Pallas Athena, who's in Pisces, and they're also forming what's called a yod kite with Chiron. And a yod kite is pretty rare. Oops, got too fast. A yod kite is pretty rare. So it's, we're going to see it. We're going to see one here. I'm going to explain what this all means, so don't worry. And then finally, the new moon is in a T square. So it's the ascendant, the moon, the sun, and Mars in Libra are square the midheaven and the star Sirius, squaring retrograde Chiron in Aries. So that's a big mouthful. And I've got my notes here, and I'm going to be sharing with you all of these beautiful, juicy details. But first, a quick lesson on how to read a chart. So let me stop sharing for just a second. And I'm going to share the astrology screen with you all. And I'm going to be using my pen because you guys know I like my little pen. I think we will choose today. Let's go with green. So this, let me move this up. Whoops. All right. So This is an astrological chart. I know some of you have had a reading with me and some of you haven't. And so just a little explanation about what everything is. So you see this inner wheel here, starts with the number 1, 2, 3, all the way around to 12. These numbers represent the houses. And so that means as we're talking about the houses of setting an intention, if you have a copy of your natal chart, and if you don't, please send me an email at hello@divinelyjennifer.com. And I will, with your birth information, your birth date, birth time, birth location, and then where you are right now. And I'll send you a copy of your natal chart, as well as the new moon imposed on your chart. So you know exactly what house the new moon falls in. So you see here's 1, the first house. And here is this gorgeous new moon. You see the sun and the moon together at 13 degrees, 24 minutes. And you got Mars here. That's the symbol for Mars, Mercury here, and the ascendant. So whatever you have on your birth chart, this little number and symbol right here, that marks your ascendant, your rising sign. And it's the sign that it's the constellation that was coming over the horizon at the time of your birth. So we're saying this new moon is being birthed at 7:05 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time in Washington, D.C. So you can see here, this new moon is in the first house. And something to note, which we'll talk about, is here is Venus in the last degrees of Scorpio. She's very strong. And we'll be talking about her and how important that love is. And she is ruling this chart. So lots around love, lots around secrets being revealed. Mercury retrograde is always energy of revealing what's happening out in the stars, or what's happening out in the world. And goodness knows we have plenty of untruths happening out there in the world. So here we've got the sun, the moon, the sun, Mars. Mars is really infusing this new moon, which that Libra energy I was talking about around love, relationships, balance, harmony, peace, frequency. Mars is infusing this new moon with a lot of courage to be deciding who we are. Because this is first house. First house is house of self or style, who we are in the world, and in Libra in relation to others. Mercury is also retrograde here. So Mars is saying, do your relationships serve you? Do your relationships bring you down? Are you making a lot of sacrifices in your relationships? And if so, why? Are you fighting a lot in your relationships? Is there a lot of argument, disagreement, polarity? We all know, we've all experienced in some way or another the polarity in the world today, and we've all experienced it having an impact on our relationships and our community. But the beautiful thing about this is that when we let go of those relationships that don't serve us, we make room for the ones that do. Nature abhors a vacuum. So with this new moon, whatever house it lands in your chart, it is really important to set an affirming intention, a positive intention around what you wish to manifest in that part of your life so that you can call it in. Because sometimes if we're not specific, the universe is going to send us the same old relationship or a similar energy. And we're like, what? Do I really have to go through this all over again? So Mars is here with courage, action, maybe some conflict, but the conflict is in service to our highest selves, at least right now. Things are going to start to get really messy. And I'll explain why that's going to happen, but they're going to get really messy right around the full moon, a few days before the full moon. We're just going to go, what? Is that really happening? And we're going to want to take to the streets. And we're going to have to decide if we want to do that, if we want to fight, if we want to be on the streets revolting and rebelling, or if we want to be part of a love revolution. More on that. So we've got the new moon here with Mars, really saying, all right, who am I? Who do I want to be? Where am I in alignment? What's my style? Does my style reflect who I am? Or do I keep my hair long because my boyfriend says it should be long? Or am I cutting my hair because I'm rebelling against my boyfriend who wants me to have long hair? Sort of that energy there for us all to tap into. So I'm going to erase that drawing there. And we're going to head over to this luscious, gorgeous grand trine. So I'm going to circle all of these here. So the ascendant, the moon, the sun, and Mars. Like I said, actually, I'm going to turn this green. Hang on. I mean, blue. Let's make that blue because grand trines have that blue energy. So you'll see, if you see a trine in your chart, it's this blue line with a triangle. So we're going to go here up to Ceres in Gemini. She's up here. That's the symbol for Ceres. And Ceres is the goddess of fertility, creativity, conception, pleasure. And here is Saturn down here in Aquarius. Saturn, as you see, is in that red. His degrees are red, which means he is retrograde. Saturn is about boundaries, structures, also commitment, being the master, committing to have the discipline to be the master. And Saturn in Aquarius is open to innovative structures, open to innovative boundaries, still wants us to have boundaries. Certainly, no relationship can thrive without boundaries, as those of us who are parents of teenagers know. So here's this beautiful grand trine. And I feel like this is giving us clarity around boundaries, especially in communication. So communicating with love, that's the Libra energy, and also Ceres. Ceres has a lot of love. So communicating with love versus the vitriol and polarity. This grand trine is about seeing both sides of the story and possibly choosing one or one of your own. And it's about conceiving fertile language. So one of the things that many of us are experiencing is that as we're moving into this new earth energy, as we're moving into the ascension and this 5D, so beautiful and divine and intense energy, we don't have the words in our language. And English was not a language that was created for a high vibration. When English was created, all these homonyms we have, there, or, you earn money, but you also put ashes into an urn. Those different words that we have aren't there to raise our vibration. They're actually there to suppress. And it was very conscious, that decision that was made. And so we are now here, we're being asked to conceive this new, beautiful language that serves love, that goes beyond the language capability we have now. And sometimes the nice thing about Libra and Ceres both, they're about touch, that physical touch, hand holding, how much pleasure we can get from hand holding and how much we can communicate from holding someone's hand or giving our loved one a shoulder rub or bringing someone flowers. It's all really nice energy of Libra and beauty and helping to please. This is really important to remember the energy of this grand trine, because with Mars here and all the vitriol that we're going to be facing and continue to face, don't take the bait. The mainstream is going to be goading, pushing the buttons, pushing us. How far can they push us before we react? How extreme can they go? And can you set boundaries? Like I said in that the one sentence summary of this new moon. Can you set boundaries of love? And really, we're starting a love revolution here. And that goes against all their plans, because you can't take down a love revolution with force. You can't take down sovereignty with force. It's totally impossible, because sovereignty is partially our connection with the divine and the connection with ourselves. It's our wholeness, the love, the abundance, our health, our wellness, our spirituality. And you can't take that away from anybody. Something else we see with this new moon, as I mentioned, is an opposition to Chiron in Aries. Here's Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer. He was wounded in battle and lived with pain the rest of his life, but he was able to heal and mentor others through that pain. So here you can see this line of opposition here, again, to this consortium. And Chiron is in the 6th house of health and well-being. So I feel like this energy to me is choosing healing over victimhood. There's a lot of blaming and shaming going on in the world right now. And this opposition says, what are you going to choose? Because the reality is that victimhood, that blaming and shaming, doesn't serve us. And what happens instead if you accept others for their wounds and healing journey? Doesn't mean you have to like it. Doesn't mean you have to go along with what they say. But what if you can accept it and let it go? And how will that change your relationship with them? How does that change your relationship to healing? And one of the things, I can find it here, that we're, dealing with is that when we're the victim, we're often taking things personally. When we're blaming and shaming, your action, your words are against me, when really they're not. And I talk a lot about the 4 agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, and they really are such an amazing way to raise your vibration when you can be in that space of not taking things personally and not making assumptions, being impeccable with your word and always doing your best. Those are the 4 agreements. I highly recommend them. And it takes us out of this victim mode, because Lord knows enough people are playing the victim. If you don't take your vitamin, I might get sick. And that's just not the way it works. So I want to talk about this finger of God here that I mentioned. We'll go to green. So you see these green lines here. We've got Mars, the new moon, the ascendant. And we've got Uranus here in Taurus. Uranus is also ruled by Venus, as I've mentioned in some of the juicy astrology. Uranus is a rabble rouser and a mischief maker. He's those aha, intuitive moments. He's sudden change, breakdowns that lead to breakthroughs. And he is in the sextile to Pallas Athena in Pisces. And Pallas Athena is wisdom, inspiration, vision, strategy, diplomacy. And in Pisces, she's very intuitive. She's not writing a business plan. She's not, making sure to do her 7 push-ups every day to get stronger. She's very much dreamy and feeling here. And when she's in this sextile to Uranus, she's incredibly intuitive. And she's already intuitive in Pisces. And then with Uranus, she's getting these lightning bolts of inspiration. How cool is that? To get these lightning bolts of inspiration. How many of you have been having breakdowns lately that lead to then these aha moments like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that, or, oh my gosh, I can see it this way now, or, oh my gosh, I didn't even see it that way. So that's this beautiful energy of the Uranus and Pallas sextile. And they're in what's called a yod. So you see these green lines here. It's a yod or a finger of God. And this has to do with fated choices and decisions that feel like they're going to affect our karma and destiny for this life and beyond. They're that big. And like I said, Libra struggles with decisions. Libra doesn't want to make decisions, but sometimes we have to make decisions about our relationships, about balance or imbalance. And so really, I would really recommend that you journal, pay attention to your dreams, and feel into when you get those aha intuitive flashes. It's like you're struck by a lightning bolt of inspiration, which I think is a pretty cool thing. I don't mind those lightning bolts one bit, except when I have to have the breakdown first. That's so great. All right, let's talk about this T-square that I mentioned. So those of you who have had a reading with me, you know that I like to talk about Sirius depending on where it lands in your chart. And Sirius is the brightest star in the winter sky. My dog is talking as well. Sirius is the brightest star in the winter sky. He's blue. Many people have an affinity to the energy of Sirius, just like some people have an affinity to the energy of the Pleiades, of Arcturus. So Sirius is up here in Cancer. He's between the degrees of 13 and 15 degrees of Cancer for all of us who are alive. And he's at 14 degrees, 22 minutes of Cancer. This little symbol here, this one here is a symbol for Cancer. And then here again is the ascendant, the moon, the sun, Mars, and they're square. And I may just have to let my dog out. And they're in this T-square to Chiron. So you can see this triangle here. A T-square, you can say it's like a T. There's a T here, or it's like a 90-degree triangle. And you know what? I am going to let my dog out just a second. Do you need to go out? All right. Have to go. All right. Just the blessings and the challenges of working from home. So we've got this T-square. So what does this mean? Well, we've got the new moon in the first house. And we've got Sirius. So this is the midheaven up here. And the midheaven is considered the pinnacle of our life, the high point of our life. And it denotes our profession, career, our public persona, our reputation, our social status, our success, our achievements in whatever part of our life. So even if we don't work outside the home, we still have 10th house energy. So this midheaven here, Sirius is right on the midheaven in the 10th house. And then here's Chiron in Aries in the 6th house. So this is a symbol for Aries here. And as I mentioned, Chiron is the wounded healer. And Chiron is in the 6th house of health, well-being, job, employee, employer, our daily rhythms and daily habits. I see this T-square as indicating a big decision for job and career. So many of you have come to me lately and said, what's my next step? I'm not happy in my job. I know there's something more for me. And yes, there is. You've got to bring your magic into the world, no matter how it's meant to be. So this is about magic, creativity, rewards. When we take the reward for taking a risk, I took a big risk when I left my job, and man, it was so worth it. The reward has been extraordinary. And I'm not talking financial reward. I'm talking to the reward to my heart. This love that I have for the work that I'm doing and for all of you who are here with me in this incredible community. So what a blessing that I was able to make that choice. And then again, for some of you, you're in this place, do you stay in the job where you feel maybe wounded, Chiron, or harmed by being in a job for the money, and a job that is not aligned with you, not aligned with your heart, with your gifts, with your highest self? And this has been one of the blessings of the last 18 months is a lot of people have realized, you know what? I actually don't want to work at Starbucks. You know what? I don't want to be a truck driver. You know what? I don't want that. Unfortunately, a lot of people haven't figured out what they want to do, but many people have, and that's been such an amazing gift. So where are you in relation with this triangle? What are you with your career, with your job? And this new moon is a beautiful opportunity for you to tap into who you are and what you want your day-to-day life to look like to support your health and well-being and to be of service. Sixth house is also about service. And then, how do you want to shine your light? How do you want to be out in the world? So this is a really beautiful and activating T-squares. T-squares are active. They kind of light a little fire under your bum and they go, 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 go. And when you have Mars, even though Mars is in Libra, he's not quite as active as he might be in Aries or Scorpio. You just know it's coming. You got to do it. And so you might think, okay, in 6 months, no. I have a feeling that a lot of people over the next 2-3 months, by the end of the year, they're going to be done. You just know you're going to be done, and that's okay. And then you can always book a session with me and figure out where you want to go from there, because that's what we get to do in the readings. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment, and we're going to go back to the PowerPoint. All right. So actually, like I said, if any of you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A. You can stick them in the chat if you want to. Want to make sure I get all your questions answered. If I'm going too fast, tell me. I'm okay with that. I don't take it personally. So other aspects and patterns here. The T-square with retrograde Mercury in Libra, square retrograde Pluto in Capricorn, square retrograde Eris in Aries. And that means Mercury is opposite Eris. Now they've had 2 of their 3 exact T-squares. The last one is going to be November 1st or 2nd, depending on where you are in the world. And so what happened here in California on October 1st, when they came exact square again together, the governor announced that students and teachers, so students between kindergarten through 12th grade and all of the teachers in the state would be required to inject themselves with a chemical that has not yet been approved by the FDA for the younger kids in order to go to school starting. They're still not sure when it's going to start. And it wasn't the legislature. It was an executive order. It was an authoritarian overreach, in my humble opinion. And they're requiring kids to get it. And so, right now, I think it's grades 9 to 12, and then it'll be younger and younger kids as things get, quote, approved. So that's what happened here in California. So it was communication about authority. And Eris is watching all this and she's getting pissed. The parents were mad about this because they didn't feel like it was just. Because Eris doesn't want a one-size-fits-all approach, but she wants everyone to have a voice and a say. So I'll talk more about this when I show you in the chart. What makes this even more interesting is that Pluto will station direct at 11:28 Pacific Daylight Time, 7.5 hours after the new moon. So we're all going to be feeling Pluto's really slow in the sky. We're going to be feeling Pluto moving forward. And in fact, Pluto stations direct, Saturn stations direct, Jupiter stations direct, Mercury stations direct. They start moving forward again. we're not going to feel like we have as many stop signs. That all happens before the full moon. And then Pluto and Eris have their fifth and last exact square on October 8th, 9th. And that happens depending on where you are. It's October 8th, 9:29 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, but it's October 9th for anyone who is on the East Coast of the States or in Europe or Australia, India, Africa, etc. So this last exact square could have, it's the last one. So you got to wonder what's going to happen on that last one. On the first one in January 2020, that's when Kobe Bryant's helicopter went down he's an American basketball star, and he and his daughter and several others were killed in a helicopter crash in Los Angeles canyons. So just wondering what's going to happen. I feel like this is contributing to some of the chaos that is out there. In fact, I think it's contributing to 99% of the chaos that is out there right now, and that we're going to feel over the next month or so, maybe 3 weeks, and then everyone's going to retreat to their respective corners. But this energy is very strong, and I'll talk about what it means more specifically when I share the chart. All right, so we also have Neptune in Pisces, sextile retrograde Pluto in Capricorn. And then we have what's called a triangle of potential. I love that name, don't you? It's retrograde Mercury in Libra, trine retrograde Jupiter in Aquarius, sextile retrograde Eris, and Eris and Mercury, as I said before, are opposite. So let's draw those out and see what those all mean. So I'm going to go back and share the chart with you all again. Okay, let's have some fun with this. So we've got, as I mentioned, let me get my little handy dandy pen. Keep it red. All right, so as I mentioned, we have Mercury retrograde here in Libra. Mercury went retrograde on September 26th, just after the full moon, just after the equinox. And then we have, and so that's really that review of communications in relationships, all those rewords: review, reboot, revisit, revise, reevaluate, receiving communications. And then we have Pluto here. Pluto's retrograde in Capricorn. Now in this software program, this little VS looking thing, that's the symbol for Capricorn. And then we have Eris up here. And in this Washington, D.C. chart for the new moon, she's in the 7th house of intimate relationships and partnerships. So even more energy around relationships, encouraging us to feel empowered in our relationships and stop taking the crap. So here's this T-square. So Pluto in Capricorn, the authority wants to censor different views. Retrograde Mercury in Libra. But Eris over here in Aries, she's the goddess of the wounded feminine. She wants to make sure everyone has a voice. She is an advocate, and she's a very powerful warrior. She will not be silenced. Not anymore. She is done. And think of the energy of Joan of Arc, for instance. Couldn't silence Joan of Arc because her connection to the divine was so strong. Now, you and I know you're here because you probably know that we need opposing viewpoints. So here's Eris and Mercury in Libra again, that energy in Mercury and Libra. We need opposing viewpoints to make an empowered decision. So Pluto is that energy of authority, and that a lot of that government and corporate overreach that we're experiencing right now, that suppression and oppression. But Pluto, the highest vibration of Pluto in Capricorn is sovereignty. Pluto wants you to stand up in your power, and it's going to challenge you and transform you to get to that point. As I mentioned, the 4 agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, these will very much come in handy because Mars is going to make Mars and the sun and the moon, they're going to make this same T-square during the lunar cycle with Pluto and Eris. Whenever Mars and Pluto get involved, it could be war. So, and war could be literal, war could be figurative. I mean, it can be large scale in the world. It can be just in your own house, in your neighborhood. But don't, again, like I said with that grand trine, try not to take the bait, no matter how much you feel pushed. Try to stand Pluto in your sovereignty and communicate with love. And when in doubt, retreat. Excuse me. Hang on a second. I'm going to try to mute myself while dog is barking. Mercury retrograde. The dog is barking during the webinar. My apologies. All right. So with this Mars energy involved, like I said, there could be some more energy here. Really retreat Mercury into your quiet space, the place where you feel peace and harmony, sitting outside, sitting in front of a fire as things get cold. I know for my friends who are in the Northeast, things are changing weather-wise, are changing here in Northern California too. We're hot right now, but it's supposed to get cold. So, pulling out that warm, fuzzy sweater and reading, another RE word, reading things, taking in information that raises your vibration. And in fact, I highly recommend, if you haven't already, maybe taking a social media fast, a news fast, setting boundaries around that communication that doesn't raise your vibration, that makes you feel disharmonious, not harmonious. Okay, so this is the T-square, and we're going to be feeling this all lunar cycle long, especially when Mars and the sun get here. It's going to happen. The dates are October 17th to 21st, 22nd. There is the potential for a lot of chaos. So my recommendation would be to choose love. Wars, this war is not going to be won with guns and brute force. It's going to be won with love. All right. So I've lost my pen. Hang on. All right. So let's go to this Neptune, who we haven't talked about yet. Neptune in Pisces, sextile Pluto in Capricorn. They're both retrograde. Neptune is about dreams, the deep intuition and inner knowing. It's the depths of the ocean and sensing your way, intuiting your way in a situation versus seeing it or touching it or hearing it. Neptune is very psychic. And the shadow side of Neptune is delusion. And, not listening, blocking out that inner voice, using substances, especially in when Neptune is in Pisces. We've really seen the consumption of alcohol has increased so much since March of 2020. And that's a shadow side of Neptune. And then here's Pluto, who we've talked about, some of that authority versus sovereignty. And this sextile here says, look, we are sovereign beings at our highest expression, divine sovereign beings with that connection to source, the divine, God, the one, whatever it is that you believe in, however it is you express that energy. Or we can be deluded by those in authority. That's really the expression of this The high vibration, we are divine sovereign beings at our highest expression. The lowest vibration, we can be deluded by those in authority. And I'm seeing a lot of delusion happening around, I would say in both camps, in both sides of the polarity, both sides of the vitriol. That delusion is on both sides. And Neptune, you absolutely must listen to your intuition in order to feel and sense what is true. And then finally, we have this triangle of potential. So what does that look like? What does that mean? All right. So here's Mercury. We talked about Mercury and Libra. Here's Eris and Aries. We talked about her. We haven't talked about Jupiter. Jupiter's here. This is a symbol for Jupiter. He's retrograde in Aquarius. And so here's what this triangle of potential looks like. So Jupiter is the focus. Yay, Jupiter. Jupiter's the focus of this triangle of potential. Jupiter is about expansion, optimism, adventure. Jupiter magnifies everything he touches, hopefully in a good way. Usually in a good way. Jupiter is considered a benefic, like Venus, really bringing goodness to most situations. But of course, this has every transit and every planet have their lowest vibration and their highest vibration. So what this triangle of potential, what this means is we're reviewing innovations in science, because Aquarius is about innovation, technology, science, also community, social groups. So we're reviewing these innovations, especially with Mercury, in science, in community, in technology. You can think about all the ways that technology is being used to spy on people, to track people. Most of us with one of these, we are being tracked all the time. You have to turn your microphone on and off depending on the program. A lot of people are deleting those apps so that they are less watched. So that's all happening in technology. So can you find a balance between yourself and what may trigger our feminine wounds? Now, we all carry those feminine wounds, no matter how we gender or sexually identify. We all have them in our DNA. We've carried them for generations in our DNA. So can you find that balance? And then if you're feeling wounded, how do you communicate in relationship and or receive communications? How do you react when you see that text message and you're like, oh, but you can't really know the full meaning of that text message because it's just word, or or when you see a comment on Facebook and you're like, you just have to respond because it's just so against what you believe in. Because Jupiter is about philosophy and beliefs. So maybe it's time to innovate your beliefs, and it's time to review the science and the technology that we're using as well. As I was saying in my interview with Pam Gregory, can telepathy become the innovation so we don't need these devices anymore? Right. So this is the last of the transits. So let's get to the intention settings and the houses here. So I'm going to stop sharing. All right. Does anyone have any, before I go into the houses? Oh, Shan, thanks. Thieves oil diluted in water. Good to know. Thank you. My gosh, stinky dog. So let's talk about the houses and what that all means for you. Let me share my screen here. Oh, let's talk about health and well-being first, speaking of essential oils. So when we're in Libra, Libra is about frequency and balance and love. So music and sound. Listen to music and sounds that raise your frequency and vibration, including nature. I talked about that already, and how that, choosing music. I love Jane Mayer's work. What she's putting out right now is just stunning. She's channeling music and lyrics. It's simply gorgeous. You can find her on YouTube. You can find her on Apple Music, Spotify, and her website. Remember that food and drink have a frequency. And if you're not sure about the vibration of your food, like let's say you normally eat organic, or you don't have time to eat organic because you're out and you're starving and you just have to grab something from the 7-Eleven, you can still say a prayer or words of gratitude, either in your head or out loud, before consuming the food. And you'll raise the food's vibration or the drink's vibration. You'll raise your vibration, and biologically, taking that moment before we consume anything resets our nervous system so we're better able to digest it and assimilate it. Consider removing alcohol and spirits. So they're called spirits for a reason, because alcohol can make us susceptible to allowing in energies and frequencies that we might not normally allow in. I know a lot of people who have recently removed alcohol from their life and they feel like new people. It really is something when you can remove those spirits from your life and see if you can get them in other ways. Or if you are going to have alcohol, that it's around ritual and ceremony. That ritual and ceremony piece are going to be, with Venus and Scorpio, are important. Vesta's also in Scorpio. So we're feeling that energy around rituals, meditation, initiation. But it's going to become even stronger once the sun moves into Scorpio on October 22nd, and then Mars moves into Scorpio on October 30th. Frequencies. So if you have a Healy device, I would use it. Any devices that impact our frequency, microcurrents. If you want information on the Healy, please email me at hello@divinelyjennifer.com and I shall send you information. I love my Healy. Aromatherapy. So again, Libra is about beauty and beauty in the air. So a lot of the scents in Libra tend to be more, the leaves falling and that crisp autumn air, the rain has fallen, or if you're in the Southern hemisphere, that energy of spring when the plants are starting to rise up out of the ground. So aromatherapy will very much help support our health and well-being while we're in Libra with this Libra new moon. Each essential oil has its unique vibration and frequency, and a good aromatherapist knows how to blend the low, medium, and high notes, as they're called, of the different oils. I'm not a practice aromatherapist, but I can purchase blends like Balance and Serenity from a company like doTERRA. So I really appreciate those pre-blended oils that I can then choose to raise my vibe. Lord knows I needed the Serenity oil last night after I finally had gotten the dog washed and myself washed too. And then activities that strengthen our sense of balance: yoga, Tai Chi, bicycling, even floating in a pool, whether that's like float therapy, a little pool, or you're out in a lake or a pool, a swimming pool, floating in that pool. It's that energy of balance and surrender. We're surrendering our weight, but we're still balancing on top of the water. So any of those activities can really strengthen our balance and will be very helpful for us during this Libra season. All right, now we get to the juicy part of setting a new moon intention and talking about the houses in your chart. So an intention can be a statement, a feeling, an affirmation. When I set intentions, it's about 3 or 4 sentences long because I just have a lot to say. I have a lot of manifesting. You can set an intention in the house where the new moon lands in your chart. So for this new moon, where is 13 degrees, 24 minutes of Libra? And look for this symbol here, that Libra symbol. And if you don't have your natal chart, you're welcome to email me at hello@divinelyjennifer.com and I'll send you one. Or you don't know where your ascendant is, and you're not really interested in it, you can use the chart for DC. So it's in the first house, or consider your sun sign as your first house as well. So wherever your sun is, let's say your sun is in Cancer, you can consider that your first house, and you can look and see where Libra is. Libra would be the fourth house, and then you can then you can go from there and make this intention around the fourth house. But I really, really strongly encourage you to take advantage of, if you have your birth information, if you have even an approximation of the time of your birth, it's so potent when we set that new moon intention around the house where the new moon lands, especially because we have Mars there right now for all of us. So when you're setting the intention, you can ask yourself, how do I want to feel in this part of my life? And then, what is happening here right now for you? So if this new moon lands in your seventh house of intimate relationships and partnerships, what's happening for you in that part of your life right now? And what are your dreams and aspirations in that part of your life? What do you want to manifest? Because we are all master manifestors, and setting that intention can really help us get there a lot faster. So what do the houses mean? So houses 1 through 3, the first house is also the energy of Aries, and it's self, personality, your style, ego, who you are inside and outside. So part of my first house, I'm a Libra rising, just barely. So it's important to me that I want to look good. I want to look professional. I want to be pretty when I make these videos, because that's who I'm bringing out into the world. That's kind of who I am. And then I'll put on my sweats later, right? The second house, Taurus energy, is personal assets, resources, money, finances, what you value, how others value you, how you can receive income and remuneration, and how you spend money. And I was talking with the client yesterday, and he has the moon in his second house. So moon in second house does not want debt. And darn it, he always has enough cash in the bank to get him through a couple of months or for big purchases, just in case. Third house is also the energy of Gemini, and that's communication, style, language, siblings, neighborhood, local and day-to-day activities and travel, like going to the grocery store or putting gas in your car. Houses 4 to 6, the fourth house, the energy of Cancer, the home, land, foundation, parents, heritage, ancestors, all those in your lineage who came before you, whether by blood or spirit. I know a lot of people are cutting ties. This is part of the Libra energy, letting go of those relationships with family that no longer serve their highest purpose, but they do have quite a beautiful spirit family or soul family. Fifth house, the energy of Leo, it's creativity, self-expression, the art you create, the things you're putting out, the things you're creating, your offspring, even if it's not real children or it's not art that you necessarily sell, romance, sensuality, sex, and children. So if your new moon falls in your fifth house and you're looking to get really creative around your romance in your relationship, this is a great new moon because it's in Libra to bring that romance and sex and fun back into the relationship. Sixth house is the energy of Virgo. So it's health, well-being, your job, your daily schedule, habits, that routine you have of you get up in the morning, you maybe take a walk and then get ready, and then you go through your day. It's also that employee, employer. I've seen a lot of people who are meant to be self-employed or be their own boss, even if they are working for a company, or they need that autonomy, they need that independence in their job. And that's really coming up a lot lately for people. So that's here in the sixth house. And then seventh house is the energy of Libra. It's marriage, intimate relationships, and partnerships. We can still have intimate relationships that are platonic, like our bestie, or just someone who's that really, 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 really good friend. The eighth house, the energy of Scorpio. And these are all the symbols, by the way, that you can find on your chart. Shared resources, shared finances, business, collaborations, mental health, death, taxes, initiations, and rituals. The ninth house is the energy of Sagittarius. It's adventure, philosophy, spiritual beliefs, religion, teaching, learning, studying, publications, and communications you put out into the world. So like books or a documentary, foreign travel, long-term plans. And finally, houses 10 to 12. So the 10th house is Capricorn, career, profession, reputation, legacy, achievement, success, public persona, life path, authority figures. How are you showing up and putting yourself out into the world as your best self? The 11th house, also the energy of Aquarius, community, friends, social groups, associations, networks, innovation, and how we fit into the collective. And finally, the 12th house, the energy of Pisces, dreams, intuition, relationship to spirit, source, God, the divine, however you call it, your relationship to the cosmos, your subconscious or your unconscious, psyche, and our inner self. So we are ready for questions and answers. If any of you have any questions about your personal chart that you want to ask here, please feel free. You can put it in the Q&A. You can put it in the chat. It's all good. I want to make sure that you get the information you really want from this webinar. So please feel free. We'll give you guys a couple of minutes to put your questions in the Q&A. Feel free also to raise your hand. There is that little symbol here. If I see, I put my little hand up, I'm raising my hand. I can see that through Zoom. And so if you want, you can also raise your hand. If you don't want to type it, I can take you off of mute and you can ask your question verbally, so to speak. So whatever feels good for you. Come on, you guys, don't be shy. This is all here for you and me. This is fun. I love doing this stuff for you guys. So let me know also, what's working for you. If you're totally lost, I will be sending out a recording of this. I'm going to put it on YouTube since it's free, but I won't put it out to the public on YouTube. It'll be just a link that I'll send to you. And then I'll also send you the slides. And I'm going to send you guys a Survey Monkey if you're willing to answer a couple of questions about your thoughts around this webinar, because like I said, I really want this to be of service to you, to your highest self, how it feels, how I can be of service through these webinars so we can have fun with this. All right. Yay, Jocelyn. Okay. What does part of fortune in Leo, Sirius and Uranus in Leo in my 12th house mean? All right. So the part of fortune is what brings us joy. And oftentimes that is our integration of spirit. So, Sirius is going to be in Cancer, but could still be in your 12th house. And then Uranus in Leo. So Uranus in Leo was very much generational, and Uranus takes 8 years to get through a sign. And Uranus in Leo really very much symbolizes freedom from freedom of self-expression, freedom of creativity and art. You think about all the ways for the generation of folks who were born with Uranus and Leo, who really, it was like the very end of the baby boomers, and they're free. They're out there in the world. They want that freedom. And so to have you in your 12th house, it means that you are looking for, like you really get satisfaction and you feel free when you're able to connect with the divine. It's very intuitive energy, very psychic energy. And so it's like, you feel joy when you're connected to spirit. It makes you feel free when you're connected to spirit. Uranus in the 12th house is also it's that very intuitive psychic information or psychic intuition. So I would say that if you haven't been listening to your intuition, or you haven't been giving your intuition and intuitive flashes credit, now is a perfect time to step into that energy. Does that make sense? You can put it in the chat and let me know if you want me to follow up on that. And Marianne, you're welcome. Thanks for coming. I'm really happy you're here. Any other questions? Any other way that I can be of service to you all today before you head off on your Sunday? Going once, going twice. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for staying around for this whole webinar. I'm so honored that you were here. It's been such a privilege to be here with you all and serve you. You're very welcome, Jocelyn. And yeah, keep out for your email. Make sure you've got hello@divinelyjennifer in your contacts so it doesn't go to spam. I'll be sending out the recording and the slides in the next few hours for you all. And I am sending you so much love. Have a beautiful day. And we'll see you the next time.